In this video, we're going to do an unboxing and deep dive review of the Yamaha Pacifica. I'm going to do a sound demo and give my overall thoughts on this guitar, and we'll give it a final score. We're also going to compare this 012 model versus my 112J. They might look the same, but they're definitely not. So let's unbox this Yamaha Pacifica. This is the 012 model, and it is hopefully a very beautiful looking guitar. Comes in a bit of a sheath, and there we have it. It looks rather tasty. Sparkle blue. We've got humbucker single, and in a little nook here we have the tremolo arm. Whoop, whoop. It's got a single tone, single volume, 5-way switch actually, and you'll see that in the demo when we come up to that, the sound demo. It's got the tremolo arm as well there. See how well that holds up in the sound demo. We've got, now they do quote this as walnut or rosewood fretboard, and we have the Yamaha Pacifica symbol there. What I do love about this guitar is that it does have a belly cut, which is superb. I'm going to take the neck off, and we're also going to have a look inside here and see what that looks like, and see the quality of what's in here, and see the quality at the tremolo system and see what that looks like. So let's have a look at this rather nice Yamaha Pacifica neck. This one actually does look like rosewood to me, and these are medium jumbo frets, and it's the usual 25.5 inch scale length that we are accustomed to for Stratocaster style guitars. I've actually measured the width at the nut, which is 40.7, as you can see there, 40.7 millimeters. They quote it as 41 on the website, so near as damn it, that's what it is. And we have the nut, which, to be fair, when I took this off, it actually came off very easily. The nut just popped off. A comment from Future Self here. This nut is actually made from urea. So it's not a graphite nut or simple plastic as you may think. Urea is a very widely used compound for this kind of thing though, so it's not too surprising, and it functions perfectly well. But I mean, you could stick that down with some glue or what have you, but it's held quite nicely by the strings. So that's what the truss rod looks like. So it's your normal simple Allen key, and the profile of the neck is this. This is what it looks like. This is what it is at the first fret, and there it is at the 12th. It's a very comfortable profile, and it's a very speedy feeling neck. Now I'll show you what it looks like, because it is maple, and they call it, it's a satin polyurethane finish. So this does have a coating on it, and it almost feels like it's naked. It doesn't feel like it's really got much of a coating at all, but it obviously has, and it feels very smooth to play. It's a very speedy feeling neck. You can just see that there. The printed marking pack 01, and I suppose that should say 2 at the end there. It's just come off slightly, and you can see also it does have it there, pack 012. It's got these kind of this, I don't know if you call it vintage style tuner maybe. It's got these kind of like oblique screws on it, which, I mean, to be fair, from my perspective, normally on guitars, those are a little bit more of a pain to change over, and it normally means drilling extra holes, etc. when you change them. Having said that, I wouldn't go speedily going to change these tuners. They're okay, they do the job absolutely fine. I'll talk about the tuners more a little bit later in the video when I compare it against my 112J, and there are some distinct advantages to this one, so stick around. The radius of this neck is 13.75 inches. What I might do is just give this a bit of a polish, these frets. They're not too bad, but I might just give them a bit of a polish. And the other thing to note is that these are smooth fret ends. There isn't really much fret sprout. I can feel the frets a little, but they're not sharp. They're not painful or anything. So again, you don't need to rush out and do any work on these frets to make them feel cozy. Neck depth at the first fret is 20.9 millimeters. Neck depth at the 12th fret is 22.7 millimeters. Looking in the back of the Yamaha, you can see you've got the 3-spring tremolo set up here, which is pretty normal. You've got the grounding wire there, and you've got a thin tremolo block, which isn't necessarily a bad thing at all. You've got quite a lot of room when you do the wiggle stick on your tremolo to actually, for the springs to move. So that's actually not bad. There's quite a lot of room there for this to move around. So it actually looks quite nice in there. Looking inside the front cavity of the guitar, underneath the pickups, so it looks very clean in there. It looks like they've done a nice job. Nothing too shocking. Tone and control, it's your expected mini pots and what have you. Looks absolutely fine. The truss rod actually has this little plastic part here, which is quite nice actually. Screws in, take the screw out, and you can remove this little plastic part, which just stops any crud and what have you getting into the truss rod. We have a standard input jack there, which is plastic housing and then metal jack input. We've got standard strap locks on one end of the guitar at the body here, and on the other at the horn. The guitar has these vintage style saddles, which means that if you want to do a lot of adjustment, you might find that the grub screws dig into the palm of your hand. If that's the case, you might want to switch these over to something a bit more modern, but these work absolutely fine on this guitar. I was quite surprised to find, because I expected them to be basically the same, but they're not, and that is really fundamental to know. So what makes them so different, in fact, is the fact that this has a mahogany body and this has an older body. Now that does make a big difference to the weight. Now this one weighs in at 3.9 kilograms and this one is at 3.4 kilograms. Now you might think, oh well, that's fairly inconsequential. I don't know, maybe you do, maybe you don't. But 3.9 kilograms is much closer to my Les Pauls than it is anything else, and this is much closer to my Fender. So in terms of weight, it's quite a big difference, and you do feel it after a little while of playing. The other big thing for me are the tuners. On the 112J, you've got these die-cast metal tuners, which are more of a standard style. You might need to drill a hole for usual style tuners if you want to change them, but they're quite normal. But on the 012, you have what they're calling covered tuners. To me, this is a big difference. These tuners are more difficult to replace with decent upgrades because there's less of these around, so your choices are going to be limited. So it's a little bit annoying. I prefer the tuners on the 112J by quite a long way. So let's test the Yamaha Pacifica 012 via the Yamaha GA10 practice amp and see how far we get. So we'll start with clean sounds and then we'll go to overdriven. We'll see how good the tremolo is. We'll test out the knobs and see how smooth they are and whether you get much gradation in the sound and the tone out of that. And we'll go through the pickup combinations. So we'll start off on position 1, which is going to be the humbucker, and we'll work our way up and see what we get. So onto position 2. I mean, undeniably stratty, and the Yamaha GA10's holding up very well there. Sounds good. To position 4. Which I think is where we start to get a really stratty kind of sound. So I think that's really nice. And then position 5. And let's test out that tremolo. Sounds very good. It's returning to pitch nicely. And then we'll see what the volume knob does and see whether that's smooth or not, and whether we get much gradation in the sound. I mean, to be honest, there's a little bit. And what about the tone? Similar sort of thing, really. It's not exactly on and off, but it isn't a super smooth, lots and lots of gradation there. Probably, one could change those over time if one really wanted to, but they're okay. They do the job, and you can get a bit of a change in volume and a bit of a change in tone. So, how are we going to get on with a bit of an overdriven sound on this? So, let's try. We'll stick to the neck position and see how we go. And I think we'll actually go to the humbucker. You can hear actually that, I think you should be able to hear that reduces some of the noise, which is good. That's a good sign. I think you could get some decent rock tones out of this if you wanted to. And probably if you want to really go for it, you might want to sort of get something a little bit large and a bit bigger speaker and what have you if you're going to play loads of overdriven. I think where this excels, where the little amp and this little guitar combo go really well together, is on the clean sounds. I think that sounds really nice. So yeah, I rate this guitar really well. I think that, you know, the tremolo holds up. The volume and tone, they're decent enough. Maybe you could switch those out. The 5-way is very affirmative. It's a nice click clacky as you go up. And the fretboard feels really nice to play on. It's a really lovely neck to actually play. And it's very encouraging in the hands. I think if this is, you know, this is kind of more of an aimed at beginners, this guitar. So I think that's really what you want. You want something that feels very comfortable and that isn't fighting you. So yeah, it's a really, really nice guitar and extremely comfortable. So there you go. That's my overall thoughts.